Episode 4. We've finished 2 episodes that were climax episodes, which is the episodes that develop the overall story of the entire series. And we finished one slice of life episode in Ticketmaster. Now we get to the second slice of life episode, and this episode is an Applejack episode. Applejack episodes are very strange for me because they're either incredibly good and I think that they're like some of the best in the series, or they're really, really, really bad and I think they're some of the worst in the series. Thankfully, I think this one is one of the best in the series. Let's get to it. Applebuck season starts off straightforward enough. Big Macintosh is hurt, and they need to harvest all of the apples in the entire orchard. And Applejack doesn't want to get help. She just wants to do it alone. And Big Mac doesn't think she can do it. And Applejack hates being challenged, or she likes being challenged, I guess, perspective, but she says she will do the entire orchard by herself. And that is the start of the conflict in this episode. Obviously, this is a lot of apples for an earth pony, of course. And we're going to get into the themes of stubbornness and accepting help and knowing your limits. And this is one of the really good episodes for those reasons. The moral is good, but also just understanding yourself and what you are capable of and what you shouldn't push yourself to do, and relying on people who are around you that love you and would help you do things. So at the start of this episode, right after we get the premise for the episode, we get a stampede happening amongst cows. There are cows stampeding towards Ponyville, and every citizen in Ponyville is panicking. Applejack is shown to be this hero-type character who can handle the cows and save the day and is great at doing this and blah, blah, blah. And it's great. It's great development for her. The town relies on Applejack for more than just her apples. She's also very good at saving the day, quote unquote. She's talented in more ways than one, and Ponyville relies on it. So after solving the problem of the stampeding cows and saving Ponyville, essentially, the town throws a appreciation party for Applejack, and all of the girls are gushing about how great she is and how she's good at this and she's good at that and she's going to help me with this and she's going to help me with that. And it's really building Applejack up as this really great hero. And it's good for her character, but then we start to see that one bad flaw that she has can bring all of her character down. We get a really funny moment here with Twilight. She's got all these note cards and she wants to read and do an announcement, but she gets interrupted by Pinky and Rainbow Dash and over and over and over. And then finally Mayor Mare comes in and she also wants to interrupt, and Twilight gets exasperated and throws her cards and goes away. I think this moment is funny because Twilight exasperated is always pretty funny, but it's especially funny because she doesn't even get to say, it's just a waste of work for her. Poor Twilight, that's all I could say all the time. She's always, the unfortunate, responsible one. So Applejack shows up, and she is, beyond tired. She is exhausted. She can't even act normally or, be herself. She is so tired from picking apples that she's acting really strange. And she grabs her trophy and she just kind of leaves, dragging it away. And it's a precursor for what's coming with Applejack. Twilight, being the smartest mare out of the main six and also being concerned for her friend, travels to Sweet Apple Acres to talk to her and ask her, hey, are you okay? Is everything good? And Applejack's main flaw and bad attribute is shown. Her stubbornness. And she's like, I'm fine. I don't need help. I don't need anything. Just don't worry about it. And that's not the only time she does that in this episode. Applejack goes to help Rainbow Dash with one of her tricks, and it's this really weird device, like a seesaw, with like a jumping platform, and Applejack's supposed to jump off of the platform and land on the uh, seesaw and launch Rainbow Dash into the sky incredibly fast so she could do something crazy. And we get this first person perspective from Applejack's view, and she just can't even see. And then we get some really, really, really funny parts. AJ's first jump is a complete miss. She just literally jumps off of the thing and lands directly on her face. And it's really funny because like Rainbow Dash just stares at her like, what is she doing? But it's a really funny moment. Applejack misses again and again and again. She can't hit the mark where she's supposed to land, so Rainbow Dash slowly starts to get irritated. So Applejack kind of stands just on the other side and it does nothing, and Rainbow Dash is like, what the heck? So Applejack hops off and it dizzies Rainbow Dash, and it's really funny because Rainbow Dash gets like kind of dizzied after she jumps off, and then Applejack finally runs and jumps off and hits the mark, and it launches Rainbow Dash when she's not ready, and it's just a really, really funny moment. So Rainbow Dash gets launched clear across Ponyville and ends up crashing onto Twilight's balcony where she's reading a book, and this triggers Twilight again, her sense of friendship and her sense of care, and she goes to talk to Applejack again. Twilight heads back to Sweet Apple Acres again, and again she asks Applejack if she needs any help or if anything can be done to do this or that, and Applejack is again outright refusing any help. Her stubbornness is crazy levels of stubborn. If you've ever known a person who is crazy levels of stubborn, it's both funny and sad, because this episode is both funny and sad because there are people like this, and you literally want to scream at them and ask them, why, just let me help you, please? And they're just like, no. So we're getting that progression of Applejack getting worse and worse and still being stubborn and more stubborn. Applejack is supposed to help Pinkie Pie next, and this part always makes me laugh. This specific screenshot, when they're baking and Pinkie Pie says chocolate chips, and it's in ultra slow motion because Applejack is so tired that she's barely comprehending what's going on. It's really funny. This scene is great. It's kind of like nonsensical because like Pinkie just has to pay attention a little, and she'd be like, oh no, you're putting like the complete wrong things in. But with some suspension of disbelief, it's still a really funny scene. After adding a bunch of wrong ingredients into the cupcakes, and then Pinkie Pie obviously giving them out or selling them or whatever she does with them, a bunch of ponies get sick. So now Applejack's stubbornness is not only costing herself, it's costing other ponies' safety and well-being. So Twilight is even more inconvenienced, and she has to do something once again. For a third time, Twilight goes to Sweet Apple Acres and speaks to Applejack, and she's more assertive, and she's like, this is getting out of hand. You really need help. Let us help you. And Applejack is still refusing. And I think a lot of people maybe construe this whole episode as Applejack possibly lying. She's saying, I can do it, when she really can't. But I don't think she's lying. I think she is overestimating herself and thinking she can do it without really considering the reality of the situation. And that's, if she's being honest and she honestly thinks she can do it, then it isn't technically a lie. It's not even like, not untechnically a lie. It's just her having way too much faith in herself. And I think that's good too, because usually people who are stubborn are like this. They don't honestly think that they're going to fail. They think they can do this stuff alone. And it's up to other people as their friends to help them understand that they don't have to push themselves so hard and even risk failing when others are willing to help them. Finally, Applejack is supposed to help Fluttershy with some bunnies, and she's not listening to Fluttershy at all, and she messes up and she causes a stampede. And this is a good good storytelling, because at the beginning Applejack was saving the town from stampedes. Now obviously bunnies aren't the same as cows, but it's supposed to be a joke, kind of, and it's also roundabout writing, like connecting the beginning to the end. She was preventing stampedes at the beginning when she was capable and aware, and her stubbornness is costing her that, and now she is causing stampedes, and she has to be basically, again, kind of berated, but also kind of she has to see it with her own eyes. She has to understand, oh, I am causing problems now that I was once preventing, and it is because I am being stubborn. And again, this is a really, really good message, because there are so many people that are stubborn that don't understand stuff like this. Because people who are stubborn and don't want to ask for help usually don't want to ask for help because they don't want to inconvenience others. And then what they end up doing is they end up inconveniencing others even more. Because if Applejack would have just asked for help to begin with, then she would not have hurt Rainbow Dash, she would not have made half of the town sick, and she would not have caused the stampede. She would have gotten the help that she needed to do the apple picking, and none of this other stuff would have occurred in the negative. So it's important to help people who are stubborn. It's important to help them understand that it is better to just get the help if you can than it is to be stubborn. So for the last time, Twilight gets a hold of Applejack, and she's like, you need to let us help, because this is out of hand and these issues don't need to be happening. And finally Applejack relents, and she's like, you're right, I need help. And that's good. I wanted to show this particular screen because it is when Twilight finally realizes, oh, she's gonna let us help, and she's relieved. And it's because you never know when that point is going to happen with someone who is stubborn. There are some stubborn people, even more so stubborn than Applejack here, that will like never let you help them. They will be like, I can do it, I don't need help. And they'll, even if their entire world is falling apart and they've lost an arm and a leg, they'll still be like, I don't need help. You leave me alone. And it's a good illustration, this particular screen, because it is a big relief when people let you help them, stubborn people especially, because then you can fix the problem and move on. Everyone can go forward, and the problem is no longer a problem. And especially amongst friends, it's even more a relief, because you want your friend to be able to move forward. You don't want them to be stuck on the problem that they have. And if you can help them get over that problem, then it is immensely relieving when they finally let you help them. The girls are allowed to help Applejack. She finally lets them onto the acres to help with the apple picking. This is really funny because it's just absurd how powerful Twilight is, when she honestly could have picked the entire orchard by herself. I'm sure of it. From seeing this ridiculousness and her not even doing any. Honestly, Rarity probably could have too, because we've seen not yet, future. We've seen that Rarity can do stuff like this with her design stuff. So Rarity probably could have done like similar to this, but all of the girls help Applejack, and Applejack is relieved, and she thanks them for their help, and she finally understands that there are some things that she cannot do, and she also understands that her friends are there to help her. And this is an incredibly good message. It's that's a lot of it's, sorry. It might be more important and better than Ticketmaster, because you almost always will meet stubborn people, and you almost always will have stubborn friends. This is a really, really, really good moral. Again, one of my favorite, if not my favorite thing about Friendship is Magic is the morals that it was teaching in the first few seasons especially. They're really, really important for us as people and as humans to understand and to build stronger friendships. Because friendship is really, really important. Friendship is like a basis for a lot of things that we all need to build upon to continue as a society. And this episode does a really good job of showing how stubborn people are, and not how stubborn, like a capacity of how stubborn people are, but how people who are stubborn operate, and that you shouldn't just leave them to their own devices, because they will more than likely destroy themselves trying to do everything in their life, and they don't need to do that if they're your friend or they're your family. And Applebuck season does a great job illustrating that. So in a nutshell, Applebuck season is a really good episode. Is it as good as the Ticketmaster? I don't think so, simply because I think that this Applejack episode that centers around Applejack is not as strong of an episode as Twilight being the center, and it's because we're trying to see what these characters are like, right? And with Ticketmaster, we get Twilight being the righteous good one who's only trying to do what's best for all of her friends, and her friends being flawed, right? That's good because it's Twilight's episode, and she should be the one who is being virtuous and good, and the other characters are flawed. This episode is an Applejack episode, and she is the one who is flawed, and that's a weird turnaround. It doesn't hurt her character, but it gives her a huge flaw that, even though it's resolved at the end of this episode, it's still not really gone after this. She's still very, very stubborn after this in a lot of instances, especially when she's dealing with Rainbow Dash, and instead of just being like, whatever, Rainbow's a goof, she still stubbornly argues with her and tries to beat her and stuff like that. So while I do think this episode is really good, it's a really good season 1 episode, I don't think it's as strong as Ticketmaster. And as such, I think that I would give this episode 4 stars out of 5, which is still really good, but not as high as Ticketmaster or the first 2 episodes, but still really good.